This tutorial is on recording audio inside the waveform view of the editor panel. We're going to save recording in a multi-track session for another tutorial. Once you've set up your audio hardware preferences, you're almost ready to start recording your audio, but you really ought to take one more step before you do that. If you're using Windows 7 or Windows Vista, you go down to the little speaker icon here and right-click on it, and open up Recording Devices. Now here's where you check your audio levels for your input devices. So we're using this microphone, and I can see that my input level is actually pretty good. I don't want it just down here at the bottom. I want it up here, right about there, and if I speak, with a firm voice, then the audio level is actually at a pretty good place. But if I need to change it, I just double-click on it, and then open up Levels, and then work on this slider. Raise the slider a little bit, and then go back and have another listen to it. So that's how you adjust the input level settings for whatever device you're using inside Windows 7 or Windows Vista. Now, if you're working on a Mac, you go to the Apple menu and then choose System Preferences, click on Sound, then click on the Input tab, select the device you're going to work with, and then adjust the input volume slider that way, very much like this. Okay, now we're ready to start recording here inside the waveform view of the editor panel, and you're probably going, what waveform view? That's because we have no files open here, and we haven't recorded anything yet. So here's the editor panel, and obviously the simplest way to start recording something is just click on the record button, right? That opens up this dialog box that says, okay, you want to make a new audio file, make sure you name it and tell me a few more things about it. Well, I'm going to cancel out of that because there are two other ways to access that dialog box. I just want to make sure you know about them. If there is no file available in the editor panel, when you go to waveform, it's going to say, well, then you must want to make a new file, right? So it opens up that same dialog box. And if you go to File, New, Audio File, that too opens up this dialog box. So this is the basic way that you get started when you want to record something inside the waveform view of the editor panel. So now I'm going to type in a name. When it's blue like that, you can just start typing and it'll replace it. So I'll go Audio Test. And I'll leave the sample rate at 48,000. That's a good level. I'll choose mono here instead of stereo or 5.1 because I've got a single microphone here. It's not a stereo microphone. And a bit depth of 32-bit. Floating point means that it's not integers, it's actually decimal, which is the absolute best bit depth you can have. So that's good. So I click OK. And that opens up this record view. It's all ready to go. To get it started, all you got to do is click on record. But before I do that, you may be thinking, how come I don't see any levels here? What's going on? Well, you don't see the levels until you actually start recording. And since you checked your levels already, they should be okay. So now I click the record button. And off we go. It's recording exactly what I'm saying right now. And when you're done, you can click on the stop button or press the space bar. The space bar is the keyboard shortcut to start and stop playback. So I'm going to press the space bar now, and we're all done. And now it displays the audio in the full width there of the waveform view of the editor panel. I'm going to click once to sort of turn off this cloudy view, this selected view, and there's our audio. You won't necessarily be recording with the spectral frequency display visible. It just depends on how you set up the display the last time you use this. Most likely display will be like that, just the waveform display. But in any event, we've got this guy set up so you can see both. And if I now play this back, you'll hear what I recorded. It's recording exactly what I'm saying right now. And when you're done, something like that. All right, now what happens? Here's this little audio file in the files panel with an asterisk after it. What's going on is that you've created this file, but Audition has tucked it away in a temporary folder as a temporary file. If you don't save it and then close Audition without saving it, it will go away. Just disappear into the ether, folks. So you do want to save it, or if you think it's not worth saving, then just get rid of it. In any event, though, the asterisk means it's sitting in some temporary folder someplace waiting for you to save it. Then once you save it, you need to tell it where you want to save it. You won't save it in the temporary folder. So for example, I select it. It's yellow, so it's already selected. I go File, Save, and now it's going to say, where do you want to put this guy? And if you were to save this thing, you'd probably want to put it inside your My Audition Exercise Files folder. You need to browse to it if you can't find it, but there is the one we set up for the tutorial. And then if you do want to save it, you could give it a different name if you want to, or take the name that you gave it. These are the default values. We're going to talk about saving audio files in another tutorial, but you can always change these values if you want to do something else. But we'll take what we used to set it up. That's called Wave PCM. The file that's stored inside that temporary folder is actually what's called a PCM file. It's not actually truly a WAV file, but will be converted to a WAV file when you save it. So I click OK. That'll add this guy to that folder as a WAV file, and that asterisk goes away. So one more thing. what happens if you click record and there's already a file open here? Well, what happens is you're going to cover it up. You'll cover up whatever area you record to. So here's the current time indicator right there. If I click record now, it's going to start covering up what was there. So whatever I recorded before is now gone. Let me just go back and I'll play that for you. I'll go before, and then it'll jump into what I just recorded. Now, it's going to start covering up. So here's the old one I'm saying right now. And when you're done, now it's going to start covering. So it just covered it right up, which is not a good thing. You need to be careful with that. If you record over something, you want to do that on purpose as opposed to by mistake. But you do have this out. Little asterisk tells you that, oh, you've got something here that you've changed. Do you want to save it? In this case, no. Or you can always undo something. You can undo the recording by going Control or Command Z. Control on Windows, Command on Mac to undo something. And if you forget the keyboard shortcut, you go to Edit, Undo Record. That's Control Z. So I'll undo that, and now that part's gone, and now that funny change has gone away. So that, folks, is how you record inside the waveform view of the editor panel here inside Audition.